Welcome to the next episode of After Office Talks. In this episode, we have a special guest joining us. He has more than 12 years of experience in variety of roles. He has been an analyst, a consultant, a product manager across various domains and geographies. He is currently working as product principal digital consultant at Robosoft and is closely aligned to a role of a product manager there. Welcome, Sayed Abbas, to After Office Talks.
Thank you, Jasmeet.
Yeah, this is a very really this would be a really good value add. I mean, the kind of role that you're working and the vast experience that you are having. So, not wasting much of our time. So, let's start with my basic question. As you are currently working as a product manager with Robosoft, so for the interest of our audience, how do you define a product manager?
Sure, Jasmeet. So this was one of the reasons why I wanted to come here and talk. The thing is that product management is a very new skill, something that has not been around for a large number of years, and I still see there's a lot of confusion around this whole product management domain. I've seen people confuse between a typical project management and a product management. How does it fit in? And a lot of people reach out to me, regarding these queries, and that's why I have also posted a couple of very big blogs catering to the same topic.
Right.
But I'm really not sure people have the time these days. That attention span is quite limited thanks to the TikToks and the other OTT platforms out there.
Right.
So coming back to the topic, product management is a skill which is you can call that a product manager is typically a CEO for a particular product. Unlike a project manager, a project manager works on the delivery side of the things, while a product manager is one who takes care of the strategy, of the conceptualizations. So he's completely responsible for the end result which goes out to the user. I mean, he's also required to be involved in the requirement defining of the product, which a project manager doesn't have to do. He simply gets the requirement he's supposed to deliver. A product manager, on the other hand, is someone who will conceptualize the product end to end, will make sure that it all gets delivered based on the specs and the functional specs and the designs and the requirements gathered from the users, and in accordance to that, the product gets built. So product management, like I said, is a typical mini CEO for that particular product end to end.
Okay, got it. So getting a little deeper into that. So how would you define a typical product development cycle? So we have generally heard a lot about the SDLC, software development life cycle, but how would you define key phases for a product development cycle?
The role of a product manager starts there by determining a need in the market. I mean, why is it that you want to create a product? And what is it, how will that product be differentiated from your competitors? These are the two questions that should get answered right away during the planning and the strategy state before you can actually go ahead and take that idea to conception. So if you say a typical product development cycle will start by doing a discovery exercise, which is understanding the core user challenges and the pain points that you're trying to address.
Right.
Okay. Once you have that, then I know, Jasmeet, we have worked in the past. We do this problem statement definition, right?
Correct.
Which is
right.
Second key phase, that what is actually that you are solving for. If you don't have that clarity, trust me, your product is not going anywhere. So you'll have to define the problem statement that will guide you towards formulating that potential solutions. Okay. Once you have identified the problem statement, the next step would be to ideate. Right, you collaborate with the team you have put together. You generate as many ideas as possible without judging the idea, and get the solutions from a wider perspective and a wider audience who are there with you to ideate. Right, we employ a lot of skills to ideate. We use all those whiteboards and we do a lot of whiteboarding there.
Correct.
Once you come up with a lot of ideas, you prototype and you throw everything against the wall and you see what sticks. So that's the next step, which is the prototyping. Once you have come up with a couple of ideas and you employ a lot of other things like A/B testing, you do a lot of user persona mapping. So that is where you test your prototypes, right? Ultimately, you come up with one idea that you feel will be able to cater to the problem that you're solving for in accordance to the user needs. So understand that empathy is a very important thing that you do during this whole thing. So that's one of the key attributes of a product manager. He should be able to empathize. So once you have that stickiness into the funnel idea, you go ahead and you implement. But beware that while also implementing, you have to continuously go to the whiteboard, reiterate, and make tweaks and changes. And you have to even when you have shipped in a small MVP feature, you need to go back to the user and find a few personas, come back, reiterate, so that you end up with a product which actually solves the problem and is at the same time from a UI UX perspective also appealing to the customer, so as to get most the acceptance from the customers. So that's a typical product development cycle as you were talking about.
How do you measure, or how do you say this is the product? The vision that you had in your first discovery phase, and while you have built an MVP out of that, how would you measure the success of that product? If I would have to ask you.
So that's a very fair question, and so something that I should have highlighted. So a good product manager is one who at every stage evaluates all the outcomes against a predefined set of metrics. So when you are doing your development and you are reaching out to the users, you need to have certain set of metrics and some benchmark set, which definitely evolves from the kind of competitive products out there. So let's say, for instance, I'll take an analogy here because let's not. I don't want to be very theoretical here.
Right.
If I'm developing an OTT platform, right? I have just integrated a video player in my OTT platform. Now there are a couple of metrics that I'll have in place, like the startup time, the battery consumption, the network usage. I will benchmark it against the leaders out there. So if you see, YouTube is the leader in startup time. The kind of rendering that YouTube has, there is no other product that could equal that, not even Netflix. When it comes to user experience, Netflix has set a certain benchmark. TikTok videos, you see, with their whole strategy of the customers creating the content, the strategy that everyone is trying to acquire. So based on these competitive analysis, you come up with a benchmark of metrics, and then when you are developing that particular feature, you evaluate your feature against those set benchmark, and you try to make it as good as possible. Because let's say if I create an OTT player and the network consumption is huge, nobody's going to watch my videos no matter what the content is. Right. So you have to take care of all those things. You have to factor all of that in. Only then will you be able to create something which will be accepted by the customer. So all the metrics, they revolve around the fact that your customers will be looking at it. From that standpoint, you need to be having very smart metrics defined, which is something that will help you further your product from a user experience and a functionality point of view.
Yeah. Okay. If I had to ask another question, so many of the people watching might have a doubt regarding the product management in a B2C versus in a B2B product. So how would you like to answer that? How different is that in terms of, say, getting feedback from users or getting feedback from internal stakeholders who will be using that? Like the audience would not be that much wider in case of a B2C, like in case of B2B, but it would be a much wider and much impactful in terms of a B2C, where the rollback of any feature or any service or anything in terms of a product feature would go against that product or maybe in favor. So both things go in a B2C, like when you have already shipped that, and then like you're getting some other feedback versus in a B2B where you have a limited set of stakeholders. So where you have a quite, more freedom to experiment a lot, while that is not the case of a B2C. That is what I think. So if you want
Right.
to take that question.
So, Jasmeet, you have kind of answered your question there, and I agree with you. When it comes to creating a product for a B2B market versus a B2C or a B2B to C, the challenges are different because your customers, your stakeholders are different.
Right.
Ultimately, you're creating a product for a customer, right?
Customers.
So
Right.
now, when it's a B2B, your customers are a limited set of people with a limited set of requirements. It's all
Right.
very clear. You can
Right.
have one discussion with them, and you'll be
Right.
identify the entire set of audience and the entire set of requirements that they have. So you'll
Right.
be able to understand their wants as well as their needs. To and that's not an approximation. That's pretty much very clear. But when it comes to a B2C, the audience is huge. So the best you
Right.
can do is identify few personas, and that's what we typically do, right? And you hope that everyone around, relating to that persona will actually like it. Be it a millennial, be it a new generation guy, be it someone who is a veteran. Everybody will like it, right? So the customer, the landscape completely changes, and hence the challenges. Because no matter how deep you dig, there will be
Right.
always few people who might not like it, unlike a
Correct.
B2B. So,
Right.
and top of that, in B2B, the UI UX part is not is probably not that important, because the appeal is in the functionality of things. As long as the business is able to do all those set of features that they want, they really don't care much. So if you
Right.
see a typical ERP platforms or a typical CRM platform, in the olden days, used to be a gray and gray screen with a bunch of fields out there, but
Right.
people were investing millions of dollars in it. It was because it was helping them run their business. That was
Right.
the goal. So although these days the user experience for the employee also matters a lot, and hence people are moving towards a fancier UI UX. I won't say that it's not
Right.
important. Definitely
Right.
this is important, but not as important as the functionality around it. But when it comes to a typical product that caters to a B2C market, UI UX becomes a more key attribute. Something
Right.
around you want to play, you want to make it as seamless as possible, so that anybody, and as easy as possible, so that
Right.
no matter who your customer, if he is digital savvy or not, he is able to understand your application right from the time he lands on your for landing screen. There is huge personalization that you include in your typical B2C app, just so that you are able to garner the interest from a wider audience. So
Right.
those are the set of challenges that you look at when it comes to a B2B and a B2C. A B2C, in B2C, you'll have to do a lot of reiterations, because there will always be something that will miss out. But for a B2B product, once you have done a couple of iterations and your business, he's getting what he wants, there is not a lot of rework involved. So the challenges
Right.
and complexities are much limited when it's come to B2B, while in B2C, the challenges are much more.
Right. Also, I mean, I have noticed, like, while the companies who are launching their products or maybe enhancing the features in B2C, so they kind of follow strategy basis certain set of users. Like we have rolled this for certain set of geographies, and then if they see like a good output or a good feedback from that geography or that set of users, then they kind of roll back to the across the set of users using that. So maybe they start with a limited set and then they roll that to the
Yes.
wider audience. Yeah.
True.
That's at the trend. Yeah, I have
Right.
seen like many of the companies like Facebook rolling their video platform when
yeah.
live things.
So these days, that is how we are doing it. We roll out a small feature, then we'll do usability testing, we'll do sampling, we'll do A/B testing, all of
Right.
these things before we actually roll it out in the live app. So that's why you have your beta testers, a beta testing group, which are your set of users who will test any new feature that you want to roll out. If you get a very positive response from that, only then you take it live to the to your live app.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks. I think we can talk on and on. It's so much great topic, but one question that I think is crucial that you must answer is, what are the core attributes of a great product manager? I think bits and pieces we've already covered, but to summarize, So yeah.
So, I mean, a product management role is a very, I mean, I won't say it's a very difficult role. Rather, it's a role which involves a lot of control, a lot of self control as well. So, self management is one of the very important traits that a product manager should have. So, when I say self management, I mean that, you know, when you have the control of the entire product, you start, second guessing yourself whether, something will fly or not. Is this is a set of features enough already, or can I add something more? So
Right.
you should be self-aware, and you should avoid prioritizing product features based on any personal preferences. So,
Correct.
because lack of self-awareness might derail the execution process from the product roadmap, and
Correct.
it could also hamper the key stakeholder relationships.
Right.
So
Right.
it becomes very crucial to have very good control and be disciplined. So you have to understand and treat the whiteboarding exercise as sacrosanct. Once you have identified the product features, you need to trust yourself as well as the stakeholders involved. So that
Right.
needs a bit of self-management, very important. Another very key important trait for a product manager is relationship management. Because even if you see in these scenarios when we are hit by this pandemic, and I hope that all
Right.
are safe. uh, I have personally experienced that relationship management plays a very key role. I mean, uh, say there has been delays, no doubt about it. The teams, there are people who are not available because of these. Some have been unfortunate enough to have got caught up into these problems. So you can't really bank on the availability of all these stakeholders. So
Right.
you have to change your strategy a bit, and in order to changing your strategy, you need to ensure that all you have the buy-ins from all your stakeholders. So relationship management plays a very key role. See, a product manager is often the link between the internal and the external
Right.
stakeholders. By developing
Right.
trustworthy connections, they
Yeah.
facilitate harmony and help people in achieving their full potential by minimizing conflicts and maximizing collaboration, which
Right.
ultimately leads to product success. So
Right.
relationship management is very important. Effective communication, another trait, because you
Right.
cannot be ambiguous when you are talking about a particular feature. You have to ensure. So when I say about effective communication, I mean it's the ability to make your teams, to make your stakeholders understand of what is it that you're working through. I mean, once the end goal is achieved, nobody should have surprises. Oh, guys, this is not what I wanted. So all those validations, all that communications should be proactive. People should know what they're building towards, and the client should know what is it that he's expecting. So that effective communication is very important. Empathy is again one of the very important traits, because if a product manager doesn't have empathy, he will not be able to churn out a product which caters to all the pain points of the user, and also has their likes, their dislikes, whatever you have gathered during those cycles, the PDC cycle that we talk about. Design sensitivity, again another important. And so there are multiple traits. I'm just talking about few very important one. He should be, product manager should be execution oriented.
Right.
A big part of product management success is being able to execute all those ideas and concepts into a working prototype. So that requires communicating, negotiating, persuasion, and motivating the team all along to ensure the product launch.
Right. Right.
So if he should be able to inspire the teams and orchestrate engineers, legal, customer support teams to execute as per the roadmaps. Everyone, all the teams with which the product manager is talking, they have to work in isolation. I mean, you can't be macro-managing as a product manager, so you have to delegate work. And if you are delegating work, you need to ensure that all the people who are leading those small teams, they are working like an orchestra. So if you have to draw an analogy, have you seen that bandmaster so a product manager is typically that.
Right. Right.
To create a symphony, everyone has to play their role.
Right.
It's their responsibility. A product manager can only tell them when and how much.
Right.
That's being execution oriented. And definitely then there is he should have a good understanding of all the development principles, the DevOps, the design ops, he should have a very tactical understanding. All of those things, definitely add for you to become a very successful product manager.
So I think, adding to what all attributes that you said, I think one thing that I also feel is very crucial is like the passion for building that product, and believing that why you are building that product. And you should be, if you are not convinced, I think even if it's a B2B or B2C, then then you can't convince the customers, but you should have that passion that why I'm building this product and how do I want to achieve success or scalability in terms of this product. So that is very critical, I think, for a product manager.
Very well said, Jasmeet. I agree. Without passion, you're not getting anywhere, and passion is very important, so that you are very focused to
Right.
done. Agreed.
So I think we have covered a lot of. I would not say covered a lot of points, but I would say we have touched a lot of points, and maybe we can have a kind of a detailed session or a detailed discussion with you whenever you have a good amount of time. And also, if anybody has any questions, so they may comment, and maybe we can take this up on a later stage and talk a little bit more about that in a separate discussion. I think for now, thanks for joining, Saeed Abbas. It was really a great pleasure having you.
Always fun to talk to you.
Yeah.
And I'll be glad if I know that added, clarified few things for someone, and if added value to anybody. And ultimately, it's all about learning. If anybody got learning out of it, I'll say it was completely worth it.
So you can also comment your questions if you want any clarity, or you might have missed adding something. So happy if you can comment, or you can directly reach out to Abbas if you have any questions over LinkedIn. He's very much active and open to respond to any such queries. Thanks, Abbas, for joining us. It was a great pleasure having you.
Thank you, Jasmeet. Thank you for having me. Thank you guys for listening.